transparency on pensions until 2009. And we had no idea how states had 2/3 of their liabilities, so 2/3 of what you're ultimately going to pay as a taxpayer off balance sheet. So you had no idea what was at risk when you moved into a state, moved into a neighborhood. And that is only going to get worse next year when the accounting principles for states make things even more apples to apples. So I think things are actually much worse than they seem. And the problem is, yes, the U.S. economy is coming back, but not in the areas that are under the most fiscal duress. So the U.S. economy coming back certainly didn't help Detroit. And the U.S. economy coming back certainly doesn't help Stockton, doesn't help so many areas that were blighted by the housing bust and blighted by just years of corruption, sometimes decades of corruption.
Let me ask the question about what the effect of all this is. You know, if Detroit does scare people into settlements, whether or not they're fair or not, at the end of the day, does it mean crisis averted? Because we will have a wave of settlements rather than bankruptcies?
Well, here's the issue. Crisis can be averted through a number of things I discuss in my book, which is we are so grossly behind the rest of the world in terms of public-private infrastructure. So we, as a country, have a lot of stuff to sell. And remember in Europe in the 1990s when they privatized so much of their infrastructure, and flying into Madrid is a very different experience than flying into LaGuardia or Newark, sorry. But the point being, is that there are a lot of options on the table. They require political will, which we are, sadly at a great deficit of.
Do you worry about the kind of macroeconomic effect here? You think?
Well, I don't worry about the macro. It's a negative in the sense that we're in a period right now where we really need demand in the economy. We're likely to continue to see that over the next few years, which is, again, one of the reasons why I find this kind of, really silly that we're in a situation where people are suffering when the best thing you could do is throw more money out there. Being a little facetious here, I mean, you don't want to just literally throw money out there, but the reason the economy is suffering is we have a lack of demand. So the fact that we're letting pensioners possibly see large chunks of their retirement income disappear at a time when, in principle, there's plenty of money there is, to my mind, really all off the mark.
I just see things very differently. You have parts of the economy that there is great demand. You have banks in Arkansas that have loan demand and they're growing loan balances by in the high teens. And then you have areas where there's no demand because there's high structural unemployment. So it is it's a tale of two very different countries under one umbrella. So extremely strong growth in states like Texas and up to North Dakota and the Central Corridor, and really hard times in other parts of the area that have high structural unemployment. And the only thing to break that cycle of unemployment or poverty, worst case scenario, is job creation, and there's not enough money to retrain and retool the workforce that's there. But there's plenty of money in the areas where there's low unemployment. And so I think that we're in a process of rebalancing as a country, and things are going to get better in certain areas and worse in other areas.
Dean Baker, Meredith Whitney, pleasure to have you both on. Up next, what makes a great president? How much of it is genetic? My next guest has given this a lot of thought. Harvard's Joseph Nye. Stay with us.
有一天，我发现生长在北京的人，感觉北京那么陌生，而又那么熟悉，既古典